Welcome to Parking Live, where the curb meets the conversation. I'm Jade Neville.
And I'm at Darst, and we are just back from IPMI Milwaukee. Jade, have you fully recovered from the conference yet?
Oh, work in progress. It's a work in progress. Getting there. I'm getting there.
Yeah, me too. It was a really good conference, though. Really great.
Yeah, the energy was really strong this year. And for listeners who don't know, IPMI is the International Parking and Mobilities Institute's annual conference. It's a big one for the industry. Parking operators, technology vendors, consultants, city leaders, all in one place for a few days. And this year we were in Milwaukee. And we were there June 14th all the way through to the 17th. And Matt, you actually presented this year, didn't you?
I did. I co-presented with Matthew Willenbrink from Genetech, and we dug into Chicago's automated bike and bus lane enforcement program and the reduction in recidivism there. We're actually going to have him on the show soon. But the best part of the conference for me is always the sessions I get to attend. Not the ones I present at. It's much less stressful.
Oh, I hear you. What was the session that stuck out most for you? What really resonated?
Well, there was one that really hit for me and kind of stopped me in my tracks. And I thought it was probably one of the more honest, grounded presentations I've seen in a little bit. It was called Doing More with Less. And it was delivered by someone who's been in the parking industry a relatively short time and inherited the City of Appleton's legacy municipal system. And she's already pushed through really substantial changes with her team.
It's great to see somebody who's come into the parking industry and it's taken them over just like it does many of us. And I'm thrilled to say that we asked that particular person to join us and they said yes. So Hilary Pattermann, welcome to Parking Live. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited to be here. And Matt, I'm very honored that you enjoyed my session so much. It was my first time speaking in a larger crowd and also my first IPMI conference experience. It was truly amazing and very inspiring to be around so many knowledgeable professionals in the industry.
Well, yeah, I did. I enjoyed it immensely. And, before we really dig into the substance of the session, I'm hoping that you could provide our listeners who may not be familiar with Appleton a little bit more information, maybe a snapshot of the size of the operation, what the system looks like, and your role in it.
Yeah, definitely. So Appleton is in Wisconsin, actually about 2 hours north of Milwaukee from where the conference was held this year. And we have about 75,000 people. We have a really vibrant downtown anchored by a big performing arts center. And we also host large community events like Oktoberfest because we are in Wisconsin after all. Our parking system includes 3 gated garages, but you'll probably hear me refer to them as ramps because that's how we coined them here in the Midwest. We have about 2,700 stalls. We have 1 surface lot that's adjoined to our library. And we have more than 700 on-street meters and 27 school zones that we enforce and support. We operate a self-sustaining enterprise fund, and that really means that our efficiency matters. I am the parking utility manager and have been since last May, so very fresh in this role. And my position covers everything from operations to maintenance, revenue, enforcement, customer experience, modernization, communication, and also some collaboration. So it's a mixed bag and no one day is ever the same.
It's always amazes me when I speak to someone in government how spread they are across various operational functions. Like you didn't even, I don't know if this was purposeful or not, but you didn't even mention dealing with elected officials and the joy that comes through that.
Yes, there's always those things too.
And what I took from that as well, Hilary, is you need a hat rack in your office because that's a lot of hats you're wearing. That's a lot of things to juggle and a lot of priorities that, can conflict as well. I'll be interested to hear, when you started a little more than a year ago in this particular role, can you walk us back to day one? What did you walk into and what was your first read of the situation?
It has been quite a year. So I was actually at the City of Appleton for 2 years prior in another role within Public Works. And somehow I ended up dipping my toe into parking and never looked back. And I think I can resonate with a lot of us that we never thought we would end up in this industry and didn't even realize that it was bigger than where our little community lies. And honestly, I walked into a legacy system and an operation that served the city, but it was certainly showing its age. We had infrastructure that was failing. Our technology was completely outdated and our processes were almost non-existent, especially when it came to our customer experience. My staff was certainly doing their best within the constraints that they had, but the systems and the lack of processes really created friction for our customers, and they went unnoticed and uncommunicated for so many years.
You told a story at IPMI that really resonated with me as someone who formerly managed enforcement for a city about a customer complaint that actually shut down parking enforcement. There are so many lessons that I took from your retelling of that story. Can you share that with our listeners?
Of course I can. That was very much of a moment that reshaped my understanding of parking and all of the aspects that it potentially could touch. So it was a very cold January morning, and we had an older gentleman that received an overtime parking citation in the mail after he had parked at the local YMCA. And from his perspective, everything about the citation felt wrong. The observed date and the issue date didn't match, and the instructions that he received on the back of the citation directed him to the police department. When he arrived to the police department, he was told to navigate to City Hall instead to make his payment. When he finally ended up at City Hall, he learned that he couldn't even pay the way that he wanted to. Our customer service counter at that time didn't accept credit cards in person, and he would have to pay online. Unfortunately, that gentleman didn't have a computer to be able to navigate that and was turned away. He honestly was trying to do the right thing and was bounced around to a bunch of different locations and giving conflicting instructions the entire way. Clearly, he was very frustrated, and understandably so. He called our mayor's office. So there's our politics right there. Unfortunately, he got to the top very quickly and he shared his experience. I was introduced to his story and I became very frustrated too. I wasn't frustrated with him at all, but we had built a system that had unintentionally caused friction for him. And his experience truly exposed every single gap that we had been overlooking, which included confusing language, inconsistent dates, inaccurate instructions, and limited payment options. And we thought that the process internally worked just fine, but we were actually creating very hard barriers for the people that we are trying to serve. The part that sticks with me, and as you said as well, is this interaction actually shut down our enforcement operation overnight until we could fix it. And I do believe that Mayor made the right call in this scenario, and it forced us to confront the truth that the numbers don't tell all. Our collection rate was 95%, and we thought that that was great. But unfortunately, it didn't measure confusion, frustration, or the energy that people spent trying to comply with our process. And it also didn't reflect for those users that didn't have a computer. We live in this very technology heavy world, and we had never considered to slow down and take a look at those processes as well. The complaint really illuminated the biggest lesson that I learned is that the small operational details really matter, and we don't give them enough credit. It just doesn't inconvenience people. This created a lasting effect for this customer, and it truly damaged what we were looking to do differently. It was certainly a wake-up call, and it shifted my mindset from just managing processes and looking to remove barriers to compliance. We were looking to earn trust from our users, and I assumed things that worked because the data looked good. And when we really dug in, we had to ask the question, does this really work for the people that are using it? So in the end, I think this story speaks to the fact that modernization isn't always about the big capital projects or technology. It sometimes starts with fixing a sentence on a citation or updating payment options or making sure instructions match the reality that's actually occurring. Those details are truly the foundation of our positive customer experience. And without them, even our best systems fail us.
That resonates quite a lot with conversation that we had with a parking manager in one of the London boroughs of Hackney, who's recently gone through similar circumstances when it comes to the quality of customer care and how we look at the end user and their experience when it comes to interacting with a local authority or municipality. And this really speaks to something real about how municipality parking divisions are perceived, from a member of public's perception, and how much goodwill really matters as well. And did this particular incident change how you approached your role during those early stages?
It did completely. It really truly shifted me from thinking about just the day-to-day operations internally to looking at it and thinking through a customer's eyes. In this experience, we actually extended our payment due date timelines from 15 to 30 days. That allowed our customers to be able to understand further why they were receiving those citations and be able to process, because we all have busy times in our lives. And that was a frustrating piece for people of having to do something with that mail as soon as they received it. And then we updated all of the language on our letters and citations and provided additional payment options and improved our resources online to just really enhance that customer experience.
My guess is that coming in fresh to the parking industry gave you the benefit of an outsider's perspective, but I imagine it was also a little overwhelming. As you explain this to me, it seems like a lot, and it seems like there would need to be some prioritization that occurs. What really surprised you the most, and what did you learn that no one really could have prepared you for?
I was very surprised of how much time and effort these little things and little details required. I assumed the big challenges would end up being funding or infrastructure just with my prior government knowledge, but it turned out to be the very small things that hurt our customer experience and really shaped how we've changed our processes and operations. Something I didn't expect is how much I love the problem solving side of this job. Parking's really helped me understand that you have to be flexible and creative and truly willing to challenge the old phrase, that's the way we've always done it.
Oh, I hear that. There's a lot of that always floating around in our industry, and those who challenge it are generally the ones that push that change forward. That's much needed, I feel. And, the transformation work is a big part of this. And I think you've highlighted everything you've discussed so far is kind of eking on the edge of that big transformation. So I want to talk about that a little bit more. And you were managing an aging infrastructure, as you mentioned, technology updates and upgrades, operational challenges all at the same time. So you got many balls in the air there. How do you prioritize what needed to happen first?
It was tough. Certainly everything needed help, but customer service experiences will and have been my main focus. Without the customers, we're truly not providing the services to our community that it needs to thrive. So we began to fix processes first, followed by infrastructure and those technology upgrades that our customers were hoping to see.
At your IPMI session, you talked about doing more with less. What does that mean to you? And can you give us an example of how that's worked in Appleton?
For us, that truly meant protecting our customer experience, even when our modernization project completely stalled out. A great example is when our ramp credit card upgrade at our exit kiosks dragged on for years. Our equipment started to fail and it was causing extremely long lines at our performing arts center events. And customers were even calling 911 because they thought they were stuck within the ramp because they weren't moving. It was taking hours to get out. So we actually implemented a very simple, low-cost workaround, which was a $50 handheld card reader and a city-issued cell phone so that we could accept not only cash at entry, but also chip, tap, and digital wallet payments, and then leaving our gates open to allow a free flow of those customers to exit more quickly. Obviously, there were some pain points related to leaving our gates open, but we truly were trying to protect our customer experience and bringing those customers back time after time. And it certainly wasn't a permanent fix, nor did we want it to be, but it did buy us time until we could implement that larger project. And that's truly, in my eyes, doing more with less because it was low risk, low cost, and we had immediate results.
With these situations where things have gone well and have had a really great impact, there's generally something that's failed and has not quite gone to plan. Is there something that you've experienced that didn't quite go as expected? And I think these stories are kind of the most useful ones to share alongside those wins so people can learn from them.
I mean, we could talk all day on things that didn't go well. I think we all know that. The one that stands out in my mind the most is our ramp kiosk replacement project. So we ran into almost every obstacle possible, and it took over 3 years to get this done. So even prior to my time coming in, we identified and had we had actually unidentified and failing infrastructure, vendor coordination issues, and leadership turnover. And then as we went to implement, our data lines actually almost disintegrated the week of installation. So very much a challenge and a frustration that we couldn't have ever predicted. And something that was supposed to take a couple of days took weeks. And truly the biggest lesson in this project was to ensure that the infrastructure is there and no amount of shiny new technology will work if you don't have those simple, basic data lines and electrical lines running to those kiosks. So it caused some pain points and delays in our project, but we did eventually get it done.
When did we become so reliant on the internet, eh?
Yeah,
Right.
it's great when it works.
Oh, exactly.
You alluded to vendor coordination playing a role, and I feel like that's something a lot of municipal parking managers wrestle with, especially when you're dealing with vendors that may not be aligned or sometimes are even competitors. How did you manage that?
I managed it aggressively in a nice Midwest way. I knew that I had to come in and set clear deadlines and clarify those scopes that I hadn't been a part of originally when the project had begun. And my job was truly to hold everyone accountable and make sure that all of the vendors within the whole process were speaking with each other and set up for the time frame that we were looking for. And I certainly didn't hesitate to push when we stalled, and it kept on reoccurring that we were making progress, feeling good, and it would stall again. And so then making sure that I was aware what needs were out there to continue this project. Because when these projects drag on, it's truly not the vendor that's feeling the frustration, it's our customers and my team. And that was hard because my team had heard over many, many years, it's coming, it's coming. And then I came in and I said, it's coming. And I was very excited to get it off the ground and launch it. And it again stalled out. And so they stopped believing. So
Mm.
we again made it through the finish line, and that rebuilt the trust even on my team.
So important, maintaining that momentum and that trust line internally as well as externally as well when you're dealing with public, and customers in terms of stakeholders. And, there's a delicate balance with that. And on the technology side, what was the biggest implementation challenges and how did you navigate them without a large IT team or deep technical resources in-house?
So for me, the only way was through constant communication and just really the willingness to ask questions and even those dumb questions that didn't make sense to me until I could see the whole picture. As you know, I didn't come from decades of experience with parking technology, but I truly came in with just the curiosity and persistence to get it done and keep everybody going when things got really messy. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't comfortable, but we learned to expect that there would be obstacles and we adjusted quickly to keep pushing forward. And even with our project, we had a last minute change, which was hard to do. We pivoted from retrofits of our very aging kiosks to full kiosk replacements. And that happened exactly 1 week before we were supposed to go live.
Wow.
And it delayed our project another month. And that was hard because we were so close to the finish line, but in the end, it was the right decision. And I'm very thankful that my leadership and my team trusted that it was the best path forward at that time. I guess a key takeaway for me is progress over perfection. We truly just continue to focus on moving the project forward.
Yeah, iterative wins, right? I mean, it's important to not allow the perfect to be the enemy of the great, as they say. Speaking of iteration, one of the themes in your IPMI presentation was rebranding, and you walked us through how you thought about the brand and what it should mean, and your goals with changing how the community perceives parking. For a lot of cities, believe it or not, parking has a really negative reputation. I know it's a surprise to
Never,
everyone listening,
never.
right? Yeah. How did you approach that? I mean, that's a sea change. How do you attack that?
So I realized early on, people didn't even notice us.
Ah,
They had no idea who we are, who was managing parking, and they honestly didn't care. And it was being seen as truly a utility and that it was very transactional and outdated. And even tying back to our elders on our council, they didn't believe it was necessarily worth investing in. Our ramps are named after stoplight colors. So red, green, and yellow keeps it interesting, but the wayfinding was inconsistent and actually non-existent for the most part. And we had very mismatched signage, and our partners of our downtown events, they were marketing for us for parking. So it just continued creating absolute confusion in our community. So I came in, pitched a rebrand because I truly wanted people to experience parking differently. And that allowed us to launch Park Appleton. And it's a modern, action oriented identity that has a clear visual. Once we launched that, we've changed everything from signages to websites to kiosk branding just to be updated with consistency to have people understand that this is a public parking facility and we're here to serve the community.
Firstly, I just want to say a quick kudos to you, by the way, for being in the industry for that short period of time and dealing with those challenges so early on. And the way that you've handled them is incredible. I mean, I've been working in the industry for like 20 years and have dealt with a few of those situations myself. And to have done it that early on in my career, my hair would have turned grey quicker than I would have liked it to. Let's put it that way. So hats off to you for balancing all that, such a early stages in your career in parking. And who would have thought you didn't you didn't leave school, college, aspiring to be a parking professional? But we're very thankful for you being in the industry. That's for sure. Challenging the perception internally or changing the perception internally is often as hard as changing it externally. It's quite a feat. How did you get your own team and city leadership on board with the modernization agenda?
Honestly, a lot of communication. I'm a huge communicator and it took a lot of patience as well. I didn't realize and I had never experienced this before in my past positions that not every idea was just going to be approved as I presented it. And I had asked if we could rename the ramps and it was immediately shut down. And I was so disappointed. But it was at that point that I learned that innovation doesn't require winning every single battle. It was about finding that middle ground to show value and build support slowly through those stakeholders. no one envisioned parking in Appleton to look any different than it had in the past. And so I truly had to show them the possibility of what a brand could do. And it involved my team and leadership in each step of the way as we kind of transformed it into what it is now. And I'm very proud of where we are going with this opportunity, having that backing from those stakeholders.
More and more customers are expecting that modernization, or they're expecting a seamless digital experience. How do you balance those expectations against what you can fund and with factors like the tech divide that you noted earlier, what's actually feasible for Appleton?
In my experience, it's all about being transparent, providing clear expectations to allow for people to understand what can be delivered now, the goals that we're looking to achieve for our community, and what kind of time funding that it actually takes to get there. Typically, I find when you share the why, it's understood more easily and most often accepted.
How did you handle pushback from the public and from internal stakeholders, really, from anybody who thought that the pace was too fast or too slow when it comes to these changes?
I always go back to clear communication, whether it's public, internal teams, or external partners that we have. I try to explain the reasoning, acknowledge any inconveniences, and offer temporary solutions as I continue to enhance my problem solving skills. But most of the time, the pushback isn't about the change itself. It's truly about the uncertainty of the unknown. And so I truly take pride in turning pushback into feedback and an opportunity to provide education to all of those stakeholders and what they're really looking for.
If you could get in a time machine and go back to the first week of your job and whisper in alternative reality Hilary's ear, what would you tell yourself? Would it be a pep talk? Would you be sharing what's down the pipe, what this person should expect?
That's a great question. I would tell myself, don't take the job. No, just kidding. No, I truly have enjoyed all aspects of this and found my true passion in this role. But if I could go back, I would tell myself that progress is going to be messy, and that's truly okay. I will say one of the most meaningful things that a colleague told me was simply that he sees that I care. And that stuck with me because at the end of the day, if you genuinely care about the work and the people that you impact, you can figure anything out. And you don't need decades of parking experience to make meaningful improvements. Truly, you just need that curiosity and communication and persistence and a willingness to learn quickly and keep moving when things get uncomfortable. Almost everything that I've done this entire past year has been very uncomfortable, but we keep going forward. And to be passionate about what you do, to be open minded, and to not underestimate the impact about just caring deeply about how to do and make things right. And that mindset's truly going to take you further than any technical skill set can.
As we alluded to earlier as well, the parking industry is something you don't necessarily aim to start in it, but you start in it and you don't look back. And it's one of those things that's too late now. You got past Hillary's
Yep.
already gone down that road.
I'm now stuck forever.
There's parking managers listening right now who probably are exactly in the same position as you were a year ago. They have limited budgets, aging infrastructure, and pressure to modernize. So, what's your most actionable piece of advice that you can give them today?
It is difficult, and I completely understand from a perspective of limited budgets and all of the things to be fixed. But truly, in the end, starting with customer experience, fix those small things that create friction, which typically include signage, instructions, payment options, because those matter to your customers more than the new shiny technology. And don't wait for perfect conditions. because sometimes simple temporary solutions protect those customer experiences, and you can work on those bigger projects that are still being processed and developed.
This has been a really amazing look back with incredible lessons learned. What's next for you and Appleton Parking? What are you really excited about in the course of the next year?
As you alluded to before, I have many hats on, so truly looking forward to all of the things. But on the docket is technology upgrades, continued structural repairs of our facilities, upgrading on-street payment options, enhancing safety throughout our facilities and our community, having better enforcement tools, and continuing those branding and wayfinding improvements for our customers to navigate to our facilities as well. I know it sounds like a lot, but I'm very excited to be handling this and have an amazing team behind me to accomplish these very large goals that we have. And everything that we're doing right now is truly building a stronger, more reliable, and more user-friendly system for the future. We're truly laying the groundwork that will support our thriving city for years. And I'm very proud of the direction that we're heading. If the last year has taught me anything, it's that every improvement, big or small, truly moves us closer to a system that our community can feel confident in.
So I'm loving this community and customer first approach. And this has been such a fantastic conversation. I mean, the Appleton story is exactly the kind of thing that listeners of this podcast and any other actually need to hear. You know, it's real, it's honest, it's practical. Thank you so much for joining us on Parking Live. And you know, you're changing the perception of parking one positive interaction at a time. So keep plugging away at that.
Thank you. I really appreciate you allowing me the space to share my story, to hopefully help others and inspire them as well.
Thank you so much, Hilary. And we really can't wait to see you present again at IPMI. I want to continue to check in on this story. I also want to thank everyone for listening today. If the episode resonated with you, please share it with a colleague who's navigating a parking modernization project. And we'll be back soon with more from people shaping the future of parking and mobility. Until next time, I'm Matt Darst.
And I'm Jade Neville. Thanks for listening to Parking Live.
Thank you for listening. I'm Julie Gates, executive producer of Parking Live. This episode was created by hosts and producers Jade Neville and Matt Darst, producer Chris O'Keefe, editor Patrick Emile, and associate producer Cindy Raskin. Parking Live is brought to you by Modaxo, passionate about moving the world's people. You can follow us on LinkedIn, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and visit us online at parking-live.com. Thanks for joining us at Parking Live, where the curb meets the conversation.